I'm Ryan Newman, and since I started with Indiana Donor Network and Driven to Save Lives, I found out that some people think that they can't be an organ donor. The truth is, anyone can sign up to be an organ donor.
Anyone?
Anyone?
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Anyone can sign up to be an organ donor. So don't count yourself out because somebody's counting on you. Go to driventosavelives.org and sign up today.
But my heart's going to you, Ryan.
Love that shirt.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome back. More Spec Corvette Racing Series action coming to you from Sebring International Raceway. Oh my goodness, race number 1 was an absolute heater. A fantastic show where Ken Mantovani picked up the win. We got a view of the false grid here as the cars are out here. There's Ken Mantovani picking up the win over Marino Reyes and Robert Weston up on the podium. Your top 10 there for the Spec Corvette Series presented by Nankang Tires. My name is Chris Graham, joined in the booth as always by my good friend Mr. James Watson. And James, you've had a chance to run these things, but Sebring is an entirely different beast from where you ran it out on the West Coast. This place is, I'm going to say, a little bit crazy, very, very quick, but it can be slick as well.
Yeah, and not to mention bumpy. That's the thing we all love about Sebring is how bumpy it is. Because even I know they did some work on it recently, but even still, there's still a good amount of that old Sebring character left, and you really gotta deal with it, especially since with these being a spec series, there's not a whole lot you can do to really kind of maneuver around that setup and handling wise, so you just gotta brave it and hope that all your fillings are put up in there pretty good, otherwise they will rattle out.
Yeah, that is correct. And actually, let's take a look here. We are currently on board with Joel McGee, and we'll show you there you go, getting the thumbs up from Joel, the McGee Consulting on board. Joel picking up a 12th place finish in race number 1. We have a ton of cameras lined up for you on this one. Next up on the list, he was your winner in race number 1, Mr. Ken Mantovani. A dominant performance here out of Ken. And the Mantovani Landed Commercial Realty on board, picking up the win by 4.4 seconds over Marino Reyes. But I'll tell you what, James, that race was a whole lot closer than it looked. And the big one here was there's a ton of cars on this racetrack. We're seeing, let me go back to our full list here. We had 42 cars on the racetrack across multiple different classes. The Spec Corvettes were putting cars a lap down just a couple of minutes into this race. That really becomes a challenge for these guys, even the guys that are running at the front of the field.
Yeah, IMSA, eat your heart out. Yeah, it's going to be really interesting to see how they deal with it again, Oh, this isn't exactly the easiest place to pass or deal with lap traffic. Hey, there's a lot of really narrow corners, so it's going to be gut check moment trying to get past some of these slower class cars. We could see a lot of dive bombs, a lot of crazy moves. I know there typically isn't a whole lot of aggression because you can get heavily penalized for any sort of contact, but it's still going to be interesting to see how those guys deal with that and what moves they do end up making.
Yeah, and the other part was the cars at the front of the field were quickly catching about the mid-pack of the Spec Corvettes as they are going to start to roll out here. We're picking up with, you got to hit the button first, dummy, the 53 of Frank Reinhardt, the RPN Racing on board. Trying to get a look from everybody's camera here before we get ready to roll. Also have the 17 of Cecil Stevens. And you can see these guys that have the Sentinel onboard units. You got to look at Cecil in the upper right-hand corner, a look out the back window as well. as they are coming down the front stretch for the first time. They're going to have a full pace lap and a full wave of Spec Corvettes, which is quite frankly just going to be absolutely awesome to see here. In addition to Cecil Stevens, we also have an onboard with Bruce Griffin. Bruce in the 120, the car number 125. This one will be the Planet Fry on board, and there you see that 17 of Cecil Stevens just ahead. Whole lot of race cars. We also have onboards with Dave Sanders and Robert Weston. Here's the onboard look from Dave Sanders' car. This one, the number 73 Phoenix Performance onboard camera. And again, that just fantastic look. You get a look at the driver, you get a look at what's going on out the back window. And the final onboard we'll have for you is with the number 14 of Robert Weston. So, whole lot of race cars that we're going to have looks from here, but I think we may start this one looking out the front window of Ken Mantovani's race car because, well, quite frankly, this is going to be a show at the front of the field. Marino Reyes, very, very quick in these cars. I don't even know which direction we want to look next, so to speak, because I tell you what, James, with this many cars, it's almost impossible to try to pick a winner.
No, there's going to be so much on-track action, but that's going to be what's awesome about this race. We're going to have so many cars involved in fighting for the big prize at the end. You know, the draft is going to play a pretty big factor in this. So if you can keep the car on the track, you have a pretty good shot.
Yeah, that's going to be a big, big part of this here. And let's make sure we got all the onboard audios turned on for you now as we've got the cars out on the racetrack. So now you'll be able to hear these 380 horsepower Spec Corvettes. And that's one of the big things here, James, that we're going to talk about a little bit is these things are fairly limited in what you can do to them. You basically have to use a sponsor-provided part, 3,200-pound minimum weight. It's a stock motor, and that horsepower maximum is a big one as well.
Yeah, so it puts a lot more in the driver's hands, and you know that's the cool thing about Spec Series is if you feel you're a good enough driver, then you're not gonna be kind of left out in the lurch by someone who can put more money into it. You can show off your skill, and we're going to see that on full display from a lot of these guys.
Yeah, field is getting doubled up down the back straightaway. They will head into sunset, and then it will be time for green flag racing here for the Spec Corvettes. Let's very quickly take a look at the weather conditions. It is a hot one in Sebring. 81 degrees, the current temperature. It feels like 84. That's about almost 8 degrees warmer than what we saw this morning. Winds have calmed down out of the south at 10 miles per hour. We'll say under now partly cloudy skies, but field making their way through Sunset Bend, and they are going to be grabbing the loud pedal here almost as soon as we get out onto the front straightaway. Oh, baby, they're fishtailing already. Field gets packed up. Green flag goes in the air. We're underway. The feature race here at Sebring. Mantovani and Reyes drag race to turn number 1. Oh, Mantovani really stuffs it in down the outside. Can he keep it on the surface?
Oh.
Wow. Oh, big dive up the outside to 2 by Sanders. He's going to go second.
It did not work.
No, it did not. He's going to go second to 5th in just a couple of corners. See the 53 of Frank Reinhardt making his way up towards the front. That car is flying right now. go on board with Reinhardt. He wants a piece of the 2 race leaders. Oh, good side-by-side battle. Almost into the back of the 70. Wow. Oh, go right back here to Dave Sanders on board. My goodness.
Yeah, that worked out for Dave.
Oh, here we go.
He said, what a send!
Big send by Sanders. And there may have been contact.
Oh, there definitely was. That was a bit of a hip check. Well, not quite a hip check because it was at the front, but you know what I mean.
And there you see one of the Porsches up front there, James. We're already catching lap traffic, and these guys are only 1 minute and 59 seconds into this race.
We're barely even half a lap in.
Swap back over to Dave Sanders. He runs in third. The battle for the lead is only about a car length and a half apart. Just up ahead, that's Reyes leading Mantovani down the backstretch for the first time. And you can see, doing the dragon, trying to break the draft. I didn't think it would be that big, but I guess here, actually, it's Ken Mantovani out front that's doing the dragon here with Reyes chasing. This is going to be big. And, whoa, wow, big slide wide there by Reyes into Sunset.
Yeah, I'm not really that surprised that the draft is playing into consideration here. You know, we see it with the virtual stuff we do during the week. The draft plays huge whenever the Indy Pros run here on iRacing.
Oh, God, they were 3 wide with a lap car into turn 1. Usher's playing the halftime show, but we're going to go full Luke Bryan, kick the dust up. Exiting turn number 1 that time by. Oh, man, now this battle for the lead has gotten tight at the front.
Oh. Yep, that's what I was talking about. You're going to have to make some serious sends on these lappers, and Frank Reinhardt made a serious send.
And how about this is not the only fight that's going on here either. Cecil Stevens, Bruce Griffin, Robert Weston, Joey Stoddard, all piled together as well. Coming around some of the NASCAR stock cars. Oh, that's so tight through the S's between Griffin and Stevens. We may have to work up some split screen action for the next race because, my goodness, there is so much going on this racetrack right now. Bruce Griffin has the fight with Brian Boyd and Robert Weston just up ahead of him. So much going on this racetrack right now. Pick up Weston, as he's going to have the 70 of Brian Boyd just up ahead. Frank Reinhardt there as well. Ken Mantovani continuing to hold the race lead.
Ooh, and a big wiggle from him during this through the center of Sunset.
Yeah. Pick up. There's your race leaders over the start-finish line, and this is basically a line of Spec Corvettes, top 10 cars, all within a handful of seconds of each other. As we go back on board with Weston. This group making their way through lap traffic. It's really tough into turn 1 there because you want to run a little bit wider line, but the only place for lap traffic to go to get out of your way is kind of on the racing line. You really have to back yourself up to make that corner.
Yeah, and it's so difficult because turn 1 is so wide, and then immediately it just bottlenecks to that little itty-bitty patch of asphalt compared to all the room you have to work with entering turn 1. And so you got to do a lot of math at like a ridiculous amount of speed because you're not entirely sure where the cars are going to shake out when you're exiting turn 1. and if you just guess a little bit on where the car you're trying to pass comes out on exit, it's not gonna end well.
Now, going back on board here with Dave Sanders, because the battle for the race lead is still within a car length. They're about nose to tail for the race lead. It's still Mantovani over Reyes. We have the onboard with Mantovani, but there's nothing to see. It's clear sailing out in front of car number 04. Oh, are we going to see the big said by Reyes? No, he backs off.
Yeah, I wouldn't. That's not a great area to pass, especially when you have all the straightaway to work with.
Yeah, this is where you're going to pick up the draft. How much draft are we actually going to get here out of these cars? Because it's a thing in the open wheel cars we see on the iRacing platform. Obviously, it's a thing in IMSA. Is it really that big of a deal for these spec Corvettes?
Of course, because you're not going a huge rate of speed. You're only getting, 150 going into the entry of Sunset? Like, it's not a whole... Compared to some of the things that the other cars that run around this track, it's not too terribly quick. And these things are big, they are heavy, and while they're decently aerodynamic, not as aerodynamic as, again, some of the other cars that run around this place. So because of that, you're going to be cutting a lot of... a big hole in the air.
Oh my goodness, what a fight for the race lead. James, I'm going to change your view up on you here to give you the full screen of this one, because my goodness, our race leaders are nose to tail right now.
Oh man, I thought he was going to send it anyways. I think that's one of those, I'm not going to do it now, but in another couple laps, you bet you're behind I'm going to try that.
That's exactly right. You're testing it to see what's going to work. The fight for the lead is good. We've got just as good a one back here with Robert Weston. Weston in position number 6, Brian Boyd just up ahead, Frank Reinhardt just up ahead of him, and even Dave Sanders in third. This is going to be 3, 4, 5, 6 all in line. Several other cars getting themselves spaced out throughout the field here. Oh my goodness, we're not even 10 minutes into this thing yet either. We've still got 20 more minutes left to go. We appreciate everybody checking in here on YouTube. Make sure you give us the shout in the comments here as well. Let us know where you're watching from. You like the super chats, that stuff's there too. But oh my goodness, man. What a race. One of the bigger spec Corvette fields that we've had. And quite frankly, James, that makes these a whole lot of fun to talk about, because you have lots of battles, but we're not doing the dummy stuff about the cars, man. We're doing oh buddy, big slide for Reyes through Sunset.
Yeah, this has to be like the biggest grid we've ever had. I can't remember for another race where we had this many cars out to watch.
And the fight for the lead is staying tight. Oh man, almost a scrape of the wall there for Reyes. And to what you talked about with how bumpy this place is, James. Big deal here. You can see it on the onboard here with Dave Sanders. Really just getting rocked and rattled around inside that race car. Actually, let's go on board with Joey Stoddard. You can see the shaking and everything else that's going on inside these things. It's a rough ride around here.
Yeah, and like, I love looking at the actual track surface itself. You can actually read the bumps in the track. Like, when you're... Whoa! Big wiggle.
Big
yeah,
save.
You can actually, like, see when you're entering the braking zones, you can see the dark marks in the track at how it's like dark and then there's a light patch and then it's dark again. That's the track showing you how bad the load is on the entering braking, just throwing the car into the track and then the bumps just throwing it back up.
Yeah, picking up race leader on board here with Ken Mantovani. May have lost the camera of Dave Sanders here, and yeah, you can see every once in a while the camera switches to vertical mode here, but man, just a fantastic battle here. Now we go back, pick up Frank Reinhardt. Reinhardt's running in position number 4. He's a full 2 seconds back of Dave Sanders, who's now running in the 3rd position. But it's a good fight between Mantovani, Reyes, and Sanders.
Yeah, he's still close enough where he's still giving us a great view of it.
Taking a look here now, we'll go on board with Robert Weston. Weston having the peak on Brian Boyd down the backstretch. Oh, carrying so much speed into Sunset. There's now the look from Reinhardt's car. Absolutely fantastic battle for the 4th position. The gap from 1st to 2nd still sitting at less than half a second. Joey Stoddard just getting around Ian Sullivan. But continuing on board here with Reinhardt as they're catching 3rd place David Sanders. Almost to the halfway point here of the feature race at Sebring. No surprises up front. Ken Mantovani, Marino Reyes, David Sanders, your top 3. The top 2 have checked out by about 1.1 seconds over 3rd place Sanders. This battle has settled down, so we'll pick up the 124 of Ian Sullivan. Just ahead of Joe Stoddard in the number 10.
The interesting line through the corner by the 124 there.
Well, I would imagine now you're starting to get these Nankangs really up to their full temperature. We're at about the halfway point. You're going to get the most grip you have out of these tires now. But they're a street design tire, so they're not going to fall off like a true race tire would towards the end of the race. But you still have to be concerned. You can't overcook the brakes. It's warm out. You can't overheat the tires. You have to be at least a little bit smart in how you drive these things.
Yeah, and Sebring is a cheese grater track when it comes to tires. Like, yeah, these tires aren't quite like what we're used to with the other series that race here, but it doesn't mean that you can do burnouts and lock the brakes and power slide through every corner. Or you've got to keep that in mind. You're gonna kill these things, so you have to be as easy on them as you can.
I'll tell you what, James, look a little bit farther out the front windshield. That looks like a couple of Spec Corvette race leaders.
The ebbs and flows.
Oh, good. Wow. What a save by Weston.
Speaking of flow, he's going to have to clean his seat after that one.
Oh, my goodness. Race leaders side by side through the infield here at Sebring. Oh, my goodness. What a show these guys are putting on.
Yeah, like how big of a lead did they have just like a lap ago, and they already have the rest of the top 5 breathing down their neck again?
Well, that's the big thing. I mean, we talk about it in the iRacing stuff, but it's magnified here when you do it in the real world. You start battling, you're going to slow yourselves down, and that's exactly what we're seeing here. The 2 race leaders are going to war. The guys behind them just get to run consistent laps, hit their marks. All of a sudden, those guys that are being consistent are catching up to and potentially giving the fight to the race leaders.
Yeah, because the terrible lines that you have to take being side by side with someone, and it loses you a lot of time, and it's magnified here at a track like Sebring with all of these narrow corners having so little room to work with. You're just hemorrhaging time because of those terrible lines and having to wait to get on the throttle, and everyone else nose to tail just taking tenths and tenths and tenths. Next thing you know, 2 seconds is gone in the blink of an eye. And now second might be gone in the blink of an eye.
I was going to say battle for second heating up between Dave Sanders and Marino Reyes. That may let Ken Mantovani peel away. This is exactly what he wants to see in his rearview mirror. 3 cars stacked up tight and going to war.
Yeah, they've got to just get back in line and try to drive back up, because with Ken being all by himself, he doesn't have to worry about going side by side and taking those terrible lines. And when you lose the draft, it's harder to catch back up to that singular car, even with the bigger numbers at your disposal.
I was just going to say, these guys, we've said it before, you almost, at this point in the race, have to say, get in line, don't be stupid, let's try to catch the race leader. They're coming through a local yellow flag. Oh, but the quick move. Oh, trouble for Reyes.
He's got a problem. That wasn't okay, you go get him.
Big trouble for Marino Reyes. This is going to promote the 73 of Dave Sanders to second, Robert Weston to third, possibly even Cecil Stevens to fourth.
Now let's see what these guys can do. Can they get themselves back up to Ken?
Trouble looks like for Frank Reinhardt. That car is on pit lane.
Pit lane? Heck, he's in the garage area by the looks of it.
Yes, gotta give the shout out here to Ole Thorderson. Ole, hope you're doing well. He was scheduled to be in the car this weekend. Unfortunately, caught a little bit of a bug, and it looks like Ole had to sit out both races this weekend. Glad to see you're able to get tuned into the stream here, though. Now, we're just waiting for our race leaders to come around and cross the start-finish line. There you just saw first place coming by. Now second, third, and fourth all in a line. Marino Reyes back to position number 4. I wonder if that wasn't as a result of seeing that there was a white car parked out on the right-hand side. There was a local yellow in place.
Yeah, but
So
the fact that he had to
Do you
pull
slow
over,
for the local yellow, and then you just don't get back to the throttle as quickly?
I don't think that was it, because from the looks of it, no one else behind him even thought about taking their foot off the pedal.
Oh,
So,
one car
I don't know if it
Sorry,
was-
James. One car sliding wide. I think that was at turn 4. And now, look at this. Weston has caught right up through the yellow flag zone. And it looks like race leader Ken Mantovani trying to navigate around a prototype. That car is going to make a lot more speed through the corners than the Corvettes do, even if it's slower down the straightaway. this could be the opportunity for Weston to try to take the lead.
Oh man, it's a nightmare for Ken. You can just feel the anxiety. Just let me go, man. Come on.
Oh, now they're going to have to navigate around another slower car. That looks like one of the old ARCA cars that are out there, the street legal NASCAR prepped cars. The fight for the lead is a good one. The battle also between Bruce Griffin and Brian Boyd starting to heat up as well. Saw at that incident scene, saw several safety vehicles out there. 21:45 is down on the clock. If we get a full course caution, these guys may not get a chance to go back to green flag racing.
Yeah, obviously it's a tough thing because for our sake we don't want this to end under caution, but we want the safety crews to be safe. So it's a tough call to make if you're race control right now.
Oh man, that car sliding around every which way. Man, I love to watch the body roll and the pitch of these things. These are not purpose-built, racing Corvettes. These are off the showroom Corvettes. Yes, they make some modifications to them, but they are absolutely beating these things hard, man.
I know, it's always so fun to watch the suspension travel and we got a oh!
Wow, Weston with a big slide. Oh, getting word from Ole Thorderson here, I guess technically-ish, our man on the ground. Marino Reyes reportedly has a problem with the car staying in third gear. That would explain things for Reyes.
Yeah, I knew that did not look like slow it up for the yellow.
One car, oh man, one car just off right-hand side, kicking up the big cloud of dust. And now with 23 and a half minutes on the clock, we're getting about to go time here for your race leaders. Manavani, Weston, Sanders, Reyes, Stevens, the top five. Oh, this is so tight up front. And again, this is where you catch a Porsche, a car that might get through the corners a little bit quicker than you. If you're going to execute a pass to put that car a lap down, you almost have to do it at the end of the straightaway and kind of just try a little slide job almost. Exactly what we're seeing here out of your race leaders.
Yeah, it's reminding me. Oh my goodness!
Slides wide!
Ooh.
Weston trying to keep that car under him.
Oh man, that was a send. He had the postage all ready to go on that one. Look at how much time he makes on the braking zone.
That's kind of the story in driving styles, though. Some guys are late breakers, very quick into the corner, but they maybe sacrifice a little bit of speed on corner exit versus somebody that backs the corner up. Oh, there's one around right in front of the leaders.
Oof.
Wow, nice piece of evasive driving by Manavani and Weston there. But I would say if you're the guy who's going to back the corner up a little bit, you can get to the throttle earlier and try to use that to your advantage to be quicker on the exit of the corner. As Weston has the peak outside on Manavani. Oh, he's going to be right there.
Yeah, honestly, with this track and the draft shenanigans that take place, I think your go-to strategy has to be easy in so you can maximize all of your momentum off of the corner, because all your speed, all your pace is going to be on exit when you have these long straightaways. If you screw up and you have to get on the gas a split second later, that's a tenth right there And then because of that difference in mile an hour, it just keeps stacking. So a 1/10 mistake could equal you losing half a second or more in just one corner. So yeah, these long sends are good, but again, what are you giving up on exit trying to stay with them?
Well, that's a great point, James, because here you have to be on the throttle early. Oh, man, as we're seeing Weston off on the grass ever so slightly. But there are different
And you see
spots.
what I mean? Look at him pull away.
Yeah, there are different spots on the racetrack that maybe when you go from twisty bit to twisty bit, you can use that late braking. But if you're going on to one of the long straightaways, you have to back the corner up to maximize the exit speed.
Yeah, when we go into the hairpin, like that's a place where you can do the full send because you have another long stretch of corners after, so that might gain you time. But leading back on out of sunset, for example, you need to maximize power off.
Very quickly, let's go back here. Oh, as we're seeing, checkered flags are in the air. Next time by, this is the final lap. Weston is going to have to get after it. They are on the white flag lap at the front of the field.
Oh, Ken lost so much time behind that lap car.
Weston
Here we go.
is going to have a shot. In fact,
Grab
he
the envelope.
may have two of them. Tries the outside look. He's going to be right there. Oh, but big speed on corner exit for Weston. I just don't know that there's a spot here to make that move unless he's going to try it here. Oh, man, that's tight. I'm trying to listen for contact. That's how tight these guys are.
Oh my god, this is incredible.
You see Weston grab the gear ever so slightly earlier, I think, than Manavani.
Oh
They're
my
still
god,
side by side.
side.
Side by side through the S's. Manavani still has the spot, but are we going to see the crossover attempt for Weston? Oh, he twitches ever so slightly. Another big right-hander here that's going to lead onto the backstretch. It'll be one last chance at the dive into sunset. And these guys are going to head for victory lane as soon as this race is over. Manavani tries to cover off the inside lane. They're going to catch a lap car potentially. Weston trying to make it stick, but it's just not going to happen. Down the front stretch for the final time. Checkered flag in the air. And the feature race for the Spec Corvettes at Sebring goes to Ken Manavani.
Oh my goodness.
Robert Weston comes home second. David Sanders third. Marino Reyes holds on for the fourth position. Still waiting to see. Cecil Stevens is pulling on to pit lane, so Cecil Stevens will finish 5th. Brian Boyd 6th. 7th to Bruce Griffin. 8th Ian Sullivan. Joey Stoddard 9th, and Brian Rabeau completes the top 10. There you go, the big thumbs up from Robert Weston. Oh my goodness, what a show to round out the night for the Spec Corvettes here at Sebring. And now they're going to get to take one of the coolest drives in the state of Florida out and around, and they will get all these Spec Corvettes parked up in victory lane here at Sebring Raceway. We will do our best to get you victory lane interviews with everybody. The noise levels may make things challenging. Oh my goodness, take a minute to catch our breath here. But we'll take a look. We're going to get all of our... Got to get some of the graphics here swapped over so we can show you your final race results. But man alive, I'll tell you what, James. 1 week from today, the West Region guys will be at Chuckwalla Valley Raceway. I'm going to say good luck. You are going to have a heck of a show that you're going to have to try to follow up on here.
Yeah, that was just unbelievable from start to finish. It's like, it's incredible how amazing of a show we were treated to today.
Just getting the last couple of cars down here into Victory Lane. Like I said, as soon as we have them, we will get our race results updated for you here. We can show you who finished where and what the gaps were. It's funny, you go from so much noise and all the sounds coming out of these engines, and everything goes very, very quiet when this race comes to a conclusion. There we go. I think we got them now. We can pull up our race results for you here. Ken Mantovani getting the win by 0.6 of a second over Robert Weston. David Sanders only about 1.4 seconds back of your race winners. Marino Reyes comes home fourth. Cecil Stevens in position number 5. 6 through 10 will be Brian Boyd, Bruce Griffin, Ian Sullivan, Joey Stoddard, and Brian Rabot. Back through the rest of the field, 11th place, Joel McGee, David Clemens, 12th, 13th, Dominic Rizzo, 14th, Brandon Dennis. Frank Reinhart comes home in the 15th position on pit lane, as does the 22 of Rayford Chambers. And the 9 of James Davidson was a did not start here this afternoon in the Spec Corvette Series presented by Nankang Tires. And looks like we are just about ready. And in fact, let's do it. Let's go over to our Victory Lane camera just outside of Victory Lane here. Your podium finishers on the podium here at Sebring. What a fantastic look at these guys. And a very cool thing. I have to say a huge thank you to the Southeast Region SCCA. Spec Corvette is now its own separate class within the Southeast Region of SCCA, and that's a very, very big deal for these guys. You can show up to any SCCA race. Your Spec Corvette is going to be legal, and not just in the TA2 class, but in a dedicated Spec Corvette class. All the SARC races as well. We should have live coverage of all of those, plus the Mid-Atlantic Road Racers Club, along with the SARC Challenge race up at VIR. That's one of the ones I'm hoping we can get us on site for, because there are going to be a ton of Spec Corvettes out there in that one. But Man alive. James, I don't think we're going to get Victory Lane interviews, but it is so cool to see these Spec Corvettes out here in Victory Lane. Before we get ready to wrap this thing up, man, can we ask for anything more out of these guys?
Nope. That was everything you wanted to see in a motor race. Tight action, crazy sends, minimal to no contact, and just an absolute unpredictable finish all the way up to when they cross the line.
Yeah, it was a fantastic show out of the Spec Corvette series, and we can't go without saying a big thank you to all of the presenting sponsors of the Spec Corvette series, and there are quite a few of them here, but quite frankly, that's how we get these shows on the air and all the work that goes into this. So we will kick things off by saying our National Racing Network presentation of the Spec Corvette series is brought to you by G-Stream. You can find them online at g-stream.com. Also have to say a huge thank you to Improved Racing. Also, Penske Racing Shocks. Sparco for the best in safety equipment. Make sure you find them online. TPS Motorsports. Turn 1. Willwood Brakes. Man, they used a whole lot of Willwood brakes getting those cars slowed down here. And finally, Nankang Motorsport Tires, the presenting sponsor of the Spec Corvette series. Also, I forgot one. I have to say a big thank you as well to Track Spec for all of their support. A fantastic race. The photographers are down there in Victory Lane. They're getting the bottles of bubbly ready. Fantastic show. It's about time for us to get the heck on out of here, though. We had a blast bringing this show to you. For James Watson and everybody else here at the National Racing Network that makes these shows happen, my name is Chris Graham. Thank you so much for coming to hang out with us, and we will see you 6 days from now at the Chuckwalla Valley Raceway. Until then, have a great night, everybody.
I'm Ryan Newman, and since I started with Indiana Donor Network and Driven to Save Lives, I found out that some people think that they can't be an organ donor. The truth is, anyone can sign up to be an organ donor.
Anyone?
Anyone?
Are you sure?
Yeah, I'm sure. Anyone can sign up to be an organ donor. So don't count yourself out because somebody's counting on you. Go to driventosavelives.org and sign up today.
But my heart's going to you, Ryan.
Love that shirt.